The most dangerous trap a liar sets isn't in crafting a perfect story or devising some elaborate scheme. It's often far simpler, a seemingly harmless question that sounds polite, even considerate. Before you're fully aware of it, you've agreed to something that undermines your own reality. So, as you're listening now, take a quiet moment to ask yourself, how many times have I fallen for these questions? Because in this world, staying mentally untouchable doesn't mean never encountering manipulators. It means recognizing their patterns. It means hearing the lines, seeing the moves, and deciding, not this time. Let's start with the first and one of the most deceptive traps. You trust me, right? It seems innocent, something a friend, partner, or boss might say just to seek reassurance. But pay attention to when this question arises. Genuine trust is shown through actions over time. It isn't something to be demanded or coerced in a moment. When someone uses this question to shut down your inquiries, what they're really saying is, stop questioning. Accept what I'm telling you without further thought. This is one of the oldest plays in manipulative strategy, using your virtues, such as loyalty or your desire to be a good person, against you. Picture this. You sense something isn't adding up. Maybe it's a financial discrepancy or an inconsistent story. You ask a straightforward question. Instead of getting an answer, they respond with, "You don't trust me? You trust me, right?" Suddenly, you're the one on trial, defending your feelings, apologizing for doubting them, trying to prove you're loyal. The focus shifts entirely away from their questionable behavior and onto you. Here's how you maintain your mental strength in moments like these. Separate trust from obedience. You can calmly say something like, "I trust you as a person, but I still need clarity on this." Or even more directly, trust doesn't mean I stop asking questions when something feels unclear. A liar wants trust to blind you. A wise person sees trust as a foundation for open communication. By responding this way, you communicate a firm boundary. My loyalty won't cost me my peace of mind. Now let's examine the second manipulative question, which often surfaces when you set boundaries. Why are you being so sensitive? This is the manipulator's way of invalidating your concerns by deflecting them with shame. For them, this move is both cheap and effective. They shift the spotlight from their actions or words to your feelings, making you question if you're overreacting, being dramatic, or too delicate. Think back to a time someone said something hurtful or dismissive. Maybe they humiliated you in public. When you finally address it and say, "That wasn't okay," their response is likely along the lines of, "Relax. Why are you being so sensitive? It was just a joke." This isn't an apology. It's dismissiveness wrapped in condescension. For people like you, who hold yourself to high standards and don't want to appear unreasonable, this tactic can be highly disarming. But here's where you can safeguard your mental well-being. Don't defend your sensitivity. Instead, evaluate their behavior. You might respond with, "My sensitivity isn't the issue. I'm telling you how your words felt. Are you open to hearing that or not?" This puts the responsibility back on them where it belongs. You're no longer seeking their validation for your feelings. You're giving them the chance to demonstrate accountability. If they choose not to engage respectfully, then that's valuable information about their character. Finally, the third manipulative question often comes laced with guilt. If you really cared about me, you would. What follows might be anything. Come visit me, hand over money, lie for me, keep secrets, take someone's side, or stay silent. This line thrives on conditional love, where your value as a friend, partner, or family member is tied to performing some act of sacrifice for their benefit. If you're someone who genuinely cares about others, and you're not a machine devoid of empathy, this tactic can cut deep. The implication is clear. If you care about them, you'll set aside your own needs, comfort, even your integrity for theirs. Manipulators use affection as leverage. They don't treasure it. They weaponize it. The way to counter this is by understanding that love isn't a form of control. You can simultaneously care about someone and hold firm boundaries. You can say, "I care about you. That's why honesty matters so much." Or, "I care about you deeply, but I'm not willing to do that." Both truths can coexist. However, don't be surprised if they escalate after hearing those responses. They might sulk, withdraw affection, or accuse you of selfishness. But remember, their reaction doesn't mean you're wrong. This is a clear sign that you've stepped outside the role they envisioned for you in their script. One of the favorite tactics liars employ is asking, "Are you really going to make a big deal out of this?" This question is crafted to diminish the gravity of the situation, making you feel unreasonable or foolish for recognizing what's actually happening. Picture yourself confronting a partner who's openly flirting with someone else, a coworker who has taken credit for your work, or a friend spreading your private matters. When you address it, they smirk and drop this line. "Seriously? You're going to make a big deal out of this?" Hidden in that question is a subtle but direct message. I've decided my behavior isn't significant, and if you think otherwise, you're being dramatic. Mentally strong individuals understand this trap and refuse to measure the gravity of the situation by the liar's standards. Instead, they assess its impact on their trust, boundaries, and self-respect. When confronted with this, instead of minimizing the situation, you stand firm. Say something like, "Yes, I'm taking it seriously because it impacts my ability to trust you." Or, "It might not seem like a big deal to you, but it crosses a boundary for me." In doing so, you're reclaiming control over your values and not letting anyone dictate what should matter in your life. This is psychological sovereignty, your refusal to stay confined in the mental cage they're trying to construct. Now consider a similar manipulation tactic, one that comes cloaked in guilt. You might hear, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me?" If you've encountered this from a parent, partner, or boss, you likely felt an initial pang of guilt because, yes, they might have supported or helped you genuinely. But now, they're leveraging these past actions as currency to control you. This is transactional generosity, giving not out of kindness, but to create an invisible debt they can later collect on. True generosity doesn't weaponize itself in disagreements. A generous person might feel hurt, but won't twist their past kindness into emotional blackmail. Here's how manipulative people rewrite the narrative. Suddenly, they're the long-suffering hero while painting you as the ungrateful villain. Once framed this way, any attempt to defend yourself may seem cruel in context. The counter? A mentally resilient response like, "I appreciate all you've done for me, but that doesn't mean I owe you agreement on everything," or "Your support doesn't give you the right to mistreat me now." This approach balances gratitude with boundaries, a combination that throws manipulators off guard. Many aren't prepared to face someone who values both self-respect and past kindness equally. Then we go deeper into manipulation with an even darker question. Who else is going to put up with you? This tactic isn't just emotionally manipulative. It's an all-out assault on your self-worth. The goal is clear: isolation. By convincing you that you're unworthy or difficult to love, they position themselves as your only source of acceptance. This classic Machiavellian strategy aims to break your confidence so you cling to them despite their mistreatment. Here's the painful truth. They already recognize your worth. The very fact they feel threatened by the idea of someone else valuing you reveals how much they know about your strengths. You don't fight this attack by defending against claims that you're too much or difficult. Instead, reject the premise altogether. Respond from a place of self-assurance. If someone sees tolerating me as a favor, they don't deserve access to me. Even if you can't vocalize this yet, repeat it internally until it feels like truth. Once you truly believe it, their grip loosens. They lose their power to control you. The seventh classic question is all about erasing accountability. Why can't you just let it go? You might bring up their lie, betrayal, or consistent disrespect only for them to sigh in annoyance. You're still on that? Just let it go. What they're really saying is, I need you to move past this faster than I'm willing to address it. In healthy relationships, letting go follows acknowledgement, genuine effort at repair, and consistent change. In manipulative dynamics, however, there's an expectation that forgiveness precedes accountability. Manipulation thrives on short memories. If they can get you to bury the issue quickly, they never have to live with the discomfort of their actions. To counter this, anchor the conversation in cause and effect. Responses like, I'll let it go when I see consistent change, or I'm bringing this up because it's still affecting me. Help me understand why I should feel secure enough to move forward, are powerful ways of regaining control. These statements send one undeniable message. Your healing isn't on their timeline. Notice how this immediately shifts responsibility to where it truly belongs. You're no longer stuck in the past. You're actively protecting your future. That distinction is vital. Take the eighth question, for instance, one designed purely to intimidate. Do you honestly think anyone will believe you over me? While earlier questions might exploit your emotions, this one targets your social reality, reputation, and support system. Liars who ask this aren't just throwing words, they're asserting leverage. I have more power, charm, and influence. If you speak out, I'll win. This is pure Machiavellian logic at work. Control the narrative, and you control the outcome. Such tactics are often employed by abusive partners, corrupt officials, manipulative bosses, and even toxic friends. But here's the hidden truth they fear you uncovering. Their question reveals insecurity. If they genuinely felt untouchable, they wouldn't feel the need to voice that threat. The mere act of warning you shows they perceive your voice as a genuine threat to their image. Being mentally untouchable doesn't mean plunging recklessly into confrontation, but it does mean refusing to be silenced by shallow bluffs. Sometimes, the sharpest move is discreetly strategic, keeping records, confiding in trusted allies, or consulting objective figures like HR, therapists, or legal professionals. Internally, though, you can counter their intimidation with a simple mindset. I don't know who will believe me yet, but I refuse to protect your version of events at the expense of my sanity. You're under no obligation to live within someone else's fabricated story just because their megaphone is louder. Now the ninth question, a seemingly softer one, but one that opens the door to full-scale gaslighting. Are you sure that's how it happened? This can be an innocent query when someone is genuinely confused. However, manipulators wield it with utmost precision and intent. You recall something clearly. You saw the evidence, heard the remark, remember the promise. Then they question it, feigning concern with furrowed brows. Are you sure? That doesn't sound right. I think you're mistaken. They don't immediately spin a new story. They simply sow doubt. Once self-doubt takes root, they can more easily feed you an entirely new narrative. Master manipulators understand that making you distrust your memory offers them the ultimate shortcut. They don't have to lie convincingly if you start censoring yourself. The best response here is a calm and grounded one. Yes, I'm sure enough that it's worth addressing. Or even, I know my memory isn't flawless, but this is what I recall, and it's important to me. You don't need to claim perfection to stand firm in your experience. It's entirely valid to say, this is my reality, even if they dislike hearing it. And pay attention to recurring patterns. If most interactions leave you doubting previously clear memories, it's not an issue with your stability, but possibly an example of weaponized doubt being used against you. 10th question. Why are you always so negative? Anyone who's ever confronted someone toxic has probably heard this deflection. You raise a legitimate concern, they pivot to pointing out supposed flaws in your character. While it's true that some people have a naturally negative outlook, manipulators weaponize this accusation as a way to sidestep accountability entirely. It reframes you as the problem and leaves their behavior unchecked. Worse yet, this tactic tends to hit introspective individuals harder. Those who already second-guess themselves or worry about being too critical might begin suppressing their voices further. Before long, you're biting your tongue, convincing yourself you're overly dramatic or pessimistic. The healthier response here involves redirecting the focus back to what really matters. I'm addressing something that concerns me. That's not negativity, it's honesty. Alternatively, if you think I'm wrong, let's talk about that. But dismissing this as negativity doesn't resolve anything. This kind of approach disrupts their attempt to label you as the issue and steers the conversation toward actual accountability, a position in which manipulators are far less comfortable. Mentally untouchable individuals don't chase every insult or label trying to correct it. Instead, they hold steady on discussing behaviors and keep the other party accountable for deciding if they'll engage constructively. Lastly, consider the 11th question. Can you keep this between us? On its face, this can seem completely harmless. After all, confidences are a natural part of friendships and intimate relationships. Sometimes it's about waiting until you've calmed down to have a brutally honest conversation. What it's not about is sacrificing yourself just to escape discomfort. Here's a truth you might need. If you were raised by people who frequently employed guilt trips, manipulation, or emotional coercion, whether parents, partners, or friends, you didn't just learn to spot these tactics. You likely also learned to normalize them. So when you start pushing back for the first time, it may feel wrong, like you're disloyal, harsh, or cold. That feeling isn't proof you're wrong. It's evidence that you're rewiring your mindset. Think of your mind as a fortified city. Over the years, certain people have discovered secret entries into your defenses. Once you recognize these hidden passages, you can seal them, redirect access, and set intentional boundaries over who gets to enter and how. This doesn't make you cold or cynical. In fact, it achieves the opposite. When manipulation stops working on you, you no longer need constant armor. You can show kindness, generosity, and vulnerability without a persistent fear of being exploited. You become strong in the best way. Not because you harm others, but because no one can easily hurt you by twisting your values. The next time someone poses manipulative questions, like, "You trust me, don't you?" or "Why are you being so sensitive?" you don't need to panic or deliver an eloquent response. You don't have to win the conversation either. Just pause, identify the tactic being used, and respond in alignment with your values instead of their pressure. Even saying something as simple as, "I need some time to think about this," disrupts the manipulator's script because it forces them out of autopilot. If reading this reminds you of specific people, a partner, ex, parent, boss, or friend, and it stings to realize you've faced many of these situations, know this: it doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're human. Manipulators don't seek out fools, they target individuals with heart, those who care deeply, who question themselves, who aim to maintain peace and fairness. You were not foolish, you were loyal, you were not blind, you were hopeful. Now, you can choose to be all those things, loyal, hopeful, and caring, while keeping your eyes wide open. Becoming mentally untouchable doesn't mean no one will ever lie to you again. It means their lies won't grip you the way they used to. You've learned to recognize the tactics. More importantly, you've learned to recognize your own worth as something separate from their manipulative narratives. You are allowed to ask questions even if they push, "You trust me, right?" You are allowed to express feelings even if they call you too sensitive. You can say no even if they try guilt-tripping with, "If you cared about me, you'd do this." You can take situations seriously even if they try minimizing it as just a big deal out of nothing. You can hold gratitude and boundaries at the same time. You are worth more than someone tolerating you. Your memory carries weight even if they try to rewrite it as wrong. Your voice matters even if they claim no one will believe you. Protecting yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary, even when judged harshly by others. And walking away from those who see your heart as something to control is always an option worth taking. Manipulators don't choose their words randomly. They aim at pressure points designed to elicit belief or compliance. But now you're identifying where those points are and separating yourself from the load they've tried to place on you for so long. As you move forward in life, listen, not with paranoia but curiosity, to the patterns around you. Notice which questions are used frequently and which ones stir something deeply uncomfortable in you. Then practice answering differently over time. When someone asks, "You trust me, right?" let your inner response be, "I trust myself first." That's how the dynamic shifts. That's how reverse psychology loses its hold on you. That's how, bit by bit, you become mentally untouchable.